Music, welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today we bring you some news. Prince William fury after the leaks from Camilla's son about his mother's plan. Recent allegations from persons purportedly well informed about the operations of the royal household depict a phase of significant internal tension within the British royal family, reportedly instigated by revelations ascribed to Tom Parker, B.S. the son of Queen Camilla. The discoveries, as reported in media and private discussions, pertain to the Queen's alleged intentions for the public positions and official acknowledgement of her family members within the larger royal structure. These statements have reportedly caused significant discomfort, particularly for the Prince of Wales. The narrative, as detailed by sources, has intensified the existing strains on the family at a time when the household is already managing the health treatments of King Charles Roman III and the ongoing strategic challenge of delineating and safeguarding the monarchy's role and purpose in the early 21st century. Accounts from individuals characterized as close to the conversations depict a scenario of tension that is both personal and institutional. Personal matters include typical familial tensions, variations in temperament, conflicting loyalties, and the increased worries that accompany loss, new responsibilities, and changing household dynamics. Institutional considerations include symbolism and precedent, the presence of individuals, the insignia. They display official recognition at events and the exclusion of certain individuals. For an organization that mostly relies on identifiable traditions and constant visual signals, such choices have implications that extend beyond the private domain. Consequently, revelations of discussions or suggestions that seem to modify such signals may incite discourse well beyond the salons where they were ostensibly deliberated. The allegations about Parker B.S. have been seen in this context not as a familial dispute, but as a possible source of institutional fragility during a critical political and social juncture. The sources depict Prince William as being both shocked and profoundly upset by the revelation of allegations detailing a series of strategic maneuvers purportedly considered or at least discussed by his stepmother, Queen Camilla. The Prince of Wales reportedly saw the alleged intentions not only as unconventional, but as a violation of established royal procedure and traditions. The response, as reported by several sources, was swift and forceful. A senior prospective sovereign responding to any perceived effort to alter the monarchy's public image would surely do so with notable passion due to the significant personal and constitutional stakes at play. Beyond a breach of etiquette, these purported actions are characterized as a possible danger to the enduring stability and symbolic integrity of the Windsor lineage. The legitimacy of the monarchy largely hinges on its capacity to demonstrate a coherent succession order and to clearly delineate by ceremonial and practical means the individuals occupying the pivotal positions within that order. Individuals familiar with the circumstances indicate that the response to these revelations has intensified pre-existing sensitivities within the family, creating an environment of increased fragility at a moment when cohesion and clarity of intent are often seen crucial. This fragility is exacerbated, as noted by observers, by persistent public inquiries over the institution's usefulness, its expenses, and its alignment with modern societal norms. Issues that are intensified when private disputes are exposed publicly. The dispute centers on what insiders describe as a deliberate effort by Queen Camilla to elevate the public prominence and official position of her children and grandchildren. Critics in royal circles contend that such a campaign would obscure the meticulously preserved separation between the sovereign's direct line of succession and the extended family that enters the royal sphere via marriage. The dispute is not only social or emotional. It concerns the representation of individuals as symbols of the crown against those seen as external to the active institutional core. They assert that the monarchy functions not just as a group of people connected by fondness or affinity, but as an institution founded on a distinctly identifiable lineage and a framework of constitutional expectations. Individuals who see the crown mostly via an institutional perspective may regard any action or proposal that seems to alter the visible enfranchisement inside the royal sphere as potentially destabilizing. This concern is especially pronounced for individuals apprehensive that gradual modifications in ceremonial practices, such as invitations to public walks, adjustments in seating arrangements at formal events, and the bestowal of insignia or titles, may cumulatively alter public perception in ways that surpass any overt constitutional amendments. The issue has been focused on a specific and significant event, the royal walkabout occurring on Christmas Day at Sandringham. The assertion about this event is that Queen Camilla wanted her son Tom Parker BS and his family to be formally recognized among the senior royals during the well-documented journey from St. Mary Magdalene Church to acknowledge the assembled crowd outside the estate. The yearly procession from the cathedral to greet well-wishers has become a defining feature of the royal Christmas calendar, providing a unique, somewhat casual opportunity for members of the royal family to interact directly with the people. Historically, participation in the walkabout has been confined to a select group of royals. Although no explicit regulations dictate eligibility, an implicit hierarchy exists within the palace. Individuals in the direct line of succession, and those fulfilling the daily responsibilities of the monarchy, often termed working royals, are generally the attendees of this public engagement. The optics of Sandringham are meticulously monitored. Camera placements and crowd anticipations are adjusted to capture a certain array of faces. Any departure from the conventional arrangement is not only a familial annotation, but a transmission signal for royal observers and the general public. The inclusion of an individual outside the traditional circle in that procession may elicit inquiries. What is their purpose for being present? What does their presence signify about status and influence? Individuals acquainted with the internal deliberations report that the suggestion to include the Parker BS family at Sandringham encountered swift and resolute opposition from some senior members of the household. The Prince of Wales, the Princess Royal, and the Duke of Edinburgh were notably among those who expressed objections. A knowledgeable source said the proposal was exceptionally unconventional, especially considering the current situation. The royal family has for years maintained a significant separation between blood relatives in the line of succession and step relatives. This plan was perceived as an effort to deliberately obscure that distinction. The remark encapsulates the primary concern that allowing the consort's non-Windsor progeny to appear alongside the sovereign and heir during one of the most prominent ritualized events in the royal calendar would modify the visual and symbolic demarcations that assist the public in comprehending the identity of the monarchy and its exclusions. Among courtiers and bureaucrats, there exists a pragmatic assessment of these concerns. Royal engagements are orchestrated not just for the media, but to embody constitutional reality. The individuals accompanying one another during an investiture, those present on the state balcony at significant moments, and attendees of ceremonial ceremonies in a prominent role together, illustrate the monarchy's framework to both the country and the global audience. The addition, whether intentional or not, of individuals outside the established home risks adding uncertainty into that framework. Critics contend that a solitary conspicuous deviation at Sandringham may establish a precedent that would be hard to retract. Once a wider circle is acknowledged in public view, there will be temptation to replicate and expand that inclusion to other ceremonial situations. Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and Prince William's resistance is reportedly based on a collective dedication to maintaining the fundamental traditions that support the institution. Princess Anne, esteemed by both the family and numerous observers as a committed traditionalist and one of the most diligent members of the royal household, is reported to have perceived the proposed alteration as a potentially perilous precedent, a gradual concession that could prove challenging to retract and might encourage additional departures from long-standing customs. Anne's esteemed reputation for diligence and meticulousness positions her as an inherent custodian of protocol, and her opposition is often seen as indicative of an institutional conservatism aimed at safeguarding the monarchy's continuance. Prince Edward, who has recently taken on a more significant public role with his wife Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, is also said to be cautious of any actions that may be seen as undermining such traditions. Edward's management of royal responsibilities and his involvement in overseeing public engagements have made him aware of the operational consequences of changing the representation of the senior family members. The concerns associated with this group demonstrate a conservative perspective on the monarchy's need to convey continuity via visual symbols and designated roles. Prince William's priorities are characterized as multifaceted and intricate. As the direct successor, he reportedly has a profound feeling of obligation to ensure the institution's continuation and the transparency of the transition. Insiders indicate that he perceives any dilution of the core group of working royals at such a big occasion as possibly detrimental to the public's understanding of the monarchy's structure. The walkabout serves the institution as more than a familial promenade. It is a meticulously orchestrated public performance that physically and narratively underscores the crown's continuity and hierarchical structure. Critics contend that incorporating the Queen's children and grandchildren, who are not of the Windsor lineage, may detract from the focus on those of paramount constitutional importance, primarily the Prince of Wales and his offspring, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, who embody the direct line of succession and consequently the monarchy's future. William's apprehensions, as expressed by his acquaintances, extend beyond superficial appearances. They pertain to the manner in which the public internalizes the significance of monarchy. If ceremonial occasions start to include an enlarged ensemble that includes relatives of a consort, the narrative that unifies the institution, its ancestry, continuity, and established order may become more difficult to maintain. For a prospective king who has dedicated a significant portion of his adult life to training for royal obligations, sustaining that story is important to ensuring legitimacy and public confidence. Should the public experience ambiguity over the representation of the monarchy or its spokesperson, the foundation of symbolic power may be compromised. The discomfort associated with Prince William reportedly transcends a single public engagement. Insiders at the palace have allegedly indicated that he saw the Sandringham plan not as a singular occurrence, but as perhaps the first most prominent phase of a more extensive approach. William increasingly suspects that Queen Camilla is systematically constructing a case to persuade King Charles to bestow royal titles or formal status onto her progeny. If realized, such a scenario would be very uncommon. The sovereign has the authority to establish peerages and confer titles, and traditionally royal family members have been awarded honors and positions at the sovereign's discretion. However, as sources close to the Prince of Wales have noted, the idea of establishing formal royal recognition for the children of a consort, individuals connected by marriage rather than by the monarch's bloodline, would constitute an unprecedented arrangement in contemporary times, distinct from traditional royal grants and likely to provoke significant public and constitutional examination. The intricacies of royal titling and style are elaborate and grounded in centuries of tradition. Formal acknowledgement as royal denoted by the title, His or Her Royal Highness, is often granted by letters patent given by the monarch. The crown may bestow peerages and other honors, often acting on ministerial counsel in these issues. Historical alterations to royal styles demonstrate that modifications to the formal composition of the functioning royal family are feasible. Nonetheless, such changes are often deliberated with caution, are politically delicate, and occur seldom. Any proposal to utilize such mechanisms for integrating the descendants of a consort into the official royal roster would raise inquiries regarding the decision-making process, the individuals consulted, including government ministers, and the public's perception of the alteration. Proponents of this worry highlight the extensive constitutional and symbolic ramifications that would ensue from any such alteration. The British monarchy is founded on hereditary succession and a recognized concept of royal identity that favors the lineage directly linked to the king. Any perceived effort to broaden the official royal circle to include a consort's family may, in the opinion of opponents, raise inquiries about equity, the significance of the crown as an institution grounded in lineage and continuity, and the possibility of perceived favoritism. A knowledgeable insider articulated Prince William's concerns succinctly. William is exceedingly wary of any actions that might undermine the public's perception of the core royal family. He sees this as far more than mere public appearances. It is a strategic effort to reorganize the family hierarchy and integrate the Parker-Bies lineage into the official institution of the monarchy. These problems are not just theoretical. The belief that titles or visible status are used to promote certain family branches may exacerbate political discourse on the monarchy's role and finance, perhaps inciting legislative examination or popular demands for change. Despite the lack of formal alterations, persistent public representations that merge the royal lineage with a consort's family may alter perceptions of dynastic legitimacy. Proponents of the crown as a national institution argue that its symbolic borders must be preserved to guarantee that the monarchy serves as a uniting rather than a dividing entity. Sources acquainted with the family's internal dynamics indicate that this apparent maneuvering has exacerbated the chasm of distrust between the Prince of Wales and his stepmother. The prince's concern, as said, pertains not just to appearances, but also to the enduring integrity of the institution. The concern is that granting titles or otherwise solidifying the consort's progeny within the official royal structure would engender both practical and symbolic complications. Practically, as the distribution of roles, duties, and public responsibilities may become convoluted. Symbolically, as it could prompt the public to scrutinize the uniqueness of the Windsor lineage and the principles sustaining it. An unidentified royal advisor said succinctly, "The Prince of Wales contends that any attempt to divert attention from the Windsor lineage jeopardizes the fundamental principles that have upheld the monarchy for centuries. The emphasis should stay on the sovereign and the direct line of succession." This aide's comment reflects the rationale derived from both historical precedent and future-oriented caution during periods of uncertainty, definitive indicators of continuity may provide stability. Advisors to the prince contend that safeguarding clarity is paramount, taking precedence over transient preferences or overt displays of family participation. A new interview conducted with Tom Parker B.S. has further complicated an already delicate issue. During the promotion of his new book, Cooking and the Crown Royal Recipes from Queen Victoria to King Charles Roman III, he engaged in a discussion with the Telegraph that, while ostensibly focused on culinary history and the origins of dishes associated with various reigns, subtly transitioned into the sensitive realm of familial dynamics and the private affairs of the royal circle. A significant portion of the discourse focused on the book's content, an examination by Parker B.S. of royal culinary customs and anecdotes. Yet his comments on his stepfather, King Charles, and his step-bros Prince William and Prince Harry garnered notable notice. Parker B.S. is a notable public figure, a cuisine writer and broadcaster who has had fluctuating levels of media attention throughout the years. His closeness to the Queen Consort and his personal stature provide him a delicate channel for information on intimate home affairs. During the interview, Parker B.S. aimed to express a position of respectful detachment from the most contentious aspects of royal family matters, stating, "I realized many years ago not to involve my clumsy fingers in the affairs of William and Harry." He also articulated empathy for the pressures faced by royal family members subjected to incessant public and media scrutiny. His acknowledgement that he and his family had accepted an invitation from King Charles and Queen Camilla to celebrate Christmas at Sandringham rather than, as he had frequently done previously, spending the holiday separately with his own children, was emphasized by commentators as possibly supporting the Queen's alleged intentions. Observers saw the detail as more than a mere alteration of home arrangements. Within the broader storyline, it was seen by some as a preliminary move towards further public integration of Camilla's family. Presence in Sandringham, particularly during the post-church procession, has significant symbolic importance. The participation of the Parker B.S. family, whatever of its intended implication, was seen as significant by those already aware of the issue of public recognition. In systems that prioritize looks, even little alterations are often seen as intentional indicators. Critics of the proposed proposal said that an invitation to Sandringham should be interpreted accordingly. The context is crucial. The Sandringham Christmas gathering is in royal standards a significant family occasion. This event has garnered ceremonial importance and media interest over several years. Consequently, an invitation to participate in Sandringham's public engagements, especially the procession from the church, signifies more than just partaking in a lunch or a private ceremony. The presence of senior royals in that context has significant symbolism, and the interview's disclosure that the Parker B.S. family will attend Sandringham intensified sensitivities among those who safeguard established limits. According to many palace insiders, the interview was seen as an imprudent venture into issues better kept confidential. Within royal circles, a long-standing unwritten rule regulates the conduct of those associated with the family. Caution is esteemed, and public discourse of internal matters by non-active members of the royal household is discouraged when an individual closely associated with the sovereign, such as Tom Parker B.S., opts to publicly discuss the family's arrangements and affiliations, even in the context of book promotion. It jeopardizes the confidentiality of private discussions and converts internal disagreements into public disputes. Regardless of aim, the interview, as articulated by several curators, illuminated discussions that many felt ought to have stayed confidential. The contradiction between a private residence and a public institution consistently presents challenges for royal houses. Extended family members not residing in the working household may engage socially with the royals, but such interactions, when exposed to public scrutiny, might be subject to reinterpretation by pundits and the public. Advisors seeking to safeguard the monarch's reputation advocate for stringent message discipline and meticulous control over who publicly discusses internal matters specifically due to this danger. The most contentious assertion arising from the recent leaks is the allegation that Queen Camilla, during a private family gathering, purportedly expressed a vision of a future where her granddaughter could potentially marry Prince George Roman II in line to the throne. The claimants have articulated it as a concept that would establish a more direct connection between the Parker-Bias lineage and the Windsor succession. The proposal, as reported by sources, elicited disbelief and outrage inside the home. For many in the family, the concept evoked a nostalgic reference to the time when dynastic marriages were explicitly utilized as strategic instruments to consolidate power and unify rival factions, a practice observed in earlier historical epochs throughout Europe, where marriages frequently fulfilled dynastic and geopolitical objectives. The news of this purported idea has elicited vigorous responses. Some have regarded the narrative as improbable or as gossip exaggerated beyond its original context. Others have characterized it as proof of a fundamental misunderstanding by the Queen about the constraints of her role as Queen Consort. According to one insider, Prince William reportedly reacted to the claim with remarkable decisiveness and overt rage. He allegedly saw the concept not just as unsuitable, but as an unacceptable infringement on both familial privacy and the constitutional regulations governing royal matrimony and succession. A source affiliated with the Wales family said, for William, this transgresses a fundamental boundary. He saw it as a blatant violation of his family's privacy and a very insulting endeavor to use the royal bloodline for personal gain. The notion of using his son, a prospective monarch, as a mere pawn in a dynastic scheme is repugnant to him. This response underscores the protective instinct shown by the Prince and Princess of Wales about their offspring. The couple has endeavored both publicly and privately to ensure that Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis have a childhood that is as ordinary and protected as feasible from intense scrutiny of royal obligations. The notion that any family member would consider or promote the planning of a marriage future for Prince George is seen as a blatant contradiction of their efforts and a breach of the privacy and autonomy they want to uphold. Sources have indicated that Prince William saw the purported suggestion not as a mere comment, but as indicative of a broader behavioral pattern by the Queen intended to establish her family's position inside the institutional framework of the monarchy. William considers this not merely inappropriate, but a substantial threat to the institution's stability. One insider reportedly said, "The concept of engaging Prince George in such initiatives appears exceedingly exploitative to William, who is steadfast in safeguarding his children from being utilized as instruments for any personal or political agenda within the family." His position, as understood by those acquainted with his perspective, reflects a commitment to thwart any internal pressures that might be perceived as exploiting his progeny for familial gain. In a distinct yet connected incident, Queen Camilla has been accused of making another purportedly imprudent remark in which she allegedly suggested that Prince George may never ascend to the throne. The context and exact phrasing of the reported comment remain ambiguous in the circulating accounts. However, the notion that such a sentiment may have been articulated privately has nonetheless elicited astonishment among certain observers. A royal historian characterized the allegation as an assault on a fundamental principle of hereditary monarchy, questioning even informally a future sovereign's entitlement or probability of succession undermines the foundational assurance of continuity that bolsters public trust in the institution. The historian reportedly said to imply that the direct heir of the second generation will not realize his destiny as king is to undermine the fundamental principles of hereditary monarchy. It is simultaneously bold and imprudent. A statement of such kind jeopardizes the alienation of a populace that has significant emotional and patriotic commitment in the monarchy's continuance, now represented by the Wales family. Observers have interpreted this purported remark in many ways. Some consider it as a further endeavor, whether deliberate or unintentional, to generate ambiguity over the Windsor succession, to augment the perceived importance of the Camilla family. Some saw it as a personal manifestation of concerns for the monarchy's future, spoken in bad taste at a time of vulnerability. Observers highlight a distinction between genuinely challenging the institution's direction in private discourse and making statements that may be seen as undermining the institution's core narrative, irrespective of intent. The statement reportedly caused concern due to its possible political and public relations ramifications. The public's perception of the monarchy is significantly influenced by coherent narratives of continuity and legitimacy, and remarks that seem to jeopardize those narratives threaten to diminish public trust at a moment when the institution is already confronting multiple challenges. These problems have elicited a robust public reaction following the emergence of the report. Social media platforms, internet forums, and opinion pages transformed into arenas of fervent discussion and critique. A multitude of people expressed their ire and discontent with the notion that the Queen could be attempting to promote her own family in manners deemed contradictory with the constitutional and symbolic responsibilities of a consort. Digital commentary varied from indignant posts asserting that the Queen must know better to more satirical and derisive responses, including memes and other online expressions that underscored the perceived disparity between personal ambition and the public duties associated with the crown. A famous royal critic succinctly captured the popular sentiment with a widely disseminated post asserting, "Prince George embodies the future of this monarchy. Any proposal to modify or disrupt his trajectory is an insult to his future. The Queen must be cognizant of the ramifications of undermining the institution she is meant to uphold." Such sentiments underscore a fundamental apprehension among numerous citizens and analysts that personal or familial ambitions should not supersede the constitutional and symbolic obligations of the monarchy, particularly during a period of generational transition and public examination. There has been significant concern among specialists and seasoned observers. Veteran royal analyst Richard Fitzwilliams said that the Queen Consort's appropriate position should be one of support and togetherness rather than division. Queen Camilla's role should exemplify support and unity rather than division. He reportedly said the alleged remarks and actions, if accurate, underscore the fragility of her position. She serves as the Queen Consort, an essential supportive figure. However, she is not the monarch, nor is her family part of the line of succession. Preserving that difference is essential for institutional integrity. Fitzwilliams' remarks echo a wider expert apprehension that the institution operates most effectively when responsibilities and limits are respected, and when the symbolism of the crown remains clear and comprehensible to the people. Other critics, while recognizing sensitivity, provided a level of nuance. Some contend that contemporary family structures inherently introduce problems for a traditional institution, and that the household's role is to navigate these intricacies without permitting personal allegiances to overshadow institutional obligations. This opinion underscores that the monarchy has evolved in several ways, and that the incorporation of blended families into public life is not intrinsically difficult provided it is approached with careful consideration of constitutional indicators and public expectations. In essence, inclusion does not necessarily equate to elevation. Critical factors are the presentation of persons and the degree to which their public roles are defined and constrained. These scandals emerge at a very delicate juncture for the royal household. King's health complications and continuous medical care are a focal point of persistent scrutiny and anxiety. While the family has been grappling for an extended period with the repercussions of discord with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, an alienation that has altered public discourse regarding the monarchy's internal unity. Furthermore, the monarchy has under persistent pressure to conform to modern ideals of openness, relevance, and social responsibility. The institution's enduring sustainability is often seen to depend on its capacity to communicate unity, responsibility, and continuity, attributes that instill public confidence and validate the monarchy's ceremonial and constitutional roles. The new disclosures and the internal disputes they have revealed have heightened concerns over the family's ability to demonstrate the unity necessary to maintain public trust. The discrepancy between Queen Camilla's purported aspirations and the conventional expectations associated with her post highlights a fundamental challenge for a contemporary monarchy that must harmonize mixed family dynamics with strict ceremonial and constitutional protocols. Blended families are a commonplace phenomenon in modern society, including within the royal household. However, the monarchy's requirement for definitive succession lines and a stable public image imposes distinct limitations on the public expression of these relationships, potentially compromising institutional clarity. In this background, it is clear why advocates of a conservative stance contend that individual ambitions should be sacrificed to the paramount need of preserving the crown's unity and legitimacy. The trajectory for the Prince and Princess of Wales, as depicted by astute observers, entails a diligent safeguarding of family privacy and institutional integrity. Prince William's primary duty as the future king, as asserted by his acquaintances, is the safeguarding of the crown and its traditions. The recent incidents are said to have strengthened his determination to safeguard both the institution and the psychological well of his children from the demands and complications associated with intricate family dynamics in the public eye. The couple's persistent attempts to protect their children from intense royal scrutiny by striving to provide them a somewhat normal upbringing highlight a commitment they are allegedly prepared to defend vigorously. For Queen Camilla, the allegations and subsequent controversy indicate that a reassessment of public demeanor may be prudent. Insiders and observers have advocated for a fresh exercise in restraint, reminding the Queen Consort that the symbolic significance of her words and acts has particular repercussions in public opinion and constitutional perception. By adopting and publicly exemplifying a role that emphasizes support for the king and the preservation of institutional traditions over her family's advancement, the Queen could potentially alleviate tensions and cultivate a sense of continuity and collective purpose, advantageous for the monarchy's long-term viability. Observers assert that this recalibration would not include personal renunciations of familial devotion, but rather an increased awareness of how private preferences manifest within a public institution. Recommended practical measures in discussion, including stricter regulation of messengers and spokesmen, better definition of public responsibilities for non-working royal family, and a reaffirmation of established rules for ceremonial appearances, Proponents contend that such regulations would enable family members to preserve private ties while safeguarding the public integrity of the Crown. In summary, revelations associated with Tom Parker BS have, as reported, initiated a series of responses and counter-responses that have shown enduring weaknesses within the royal family's framework. Your body remembers every healthy signal you give it, whether entirely factual or partially exaggerated by gossip and media sensationalism, has nonetheless system that have been resulted in decimate tangible consequences. They have incited resentment, entrenched positions, and stimulated public discourse regarding the permissible extent of influence that a consort and her family should wield within the sphere of the Crown. As the monarchy's capacity for adaptation is being challenged, the need for defined responsibilities, judicious conduct, and a dedication to unity is particularly urgent. The family's response in the next months will reflect its ability to balance personal ties with public obligations. The next trajectory for the senior family members will need a meticulous balance between private familial allegiances and public responsibilities, an equilibrium seen essential by many for the institution's legitimacy and the likelihood of Prince George's future ascension. If the lesson from the recent revelations is acknowledged, it will need restraint, caution, and a collective understanding that the maintenance of the Crown's continuity must supersede personal aspirations within the family. The monarchy can only navigate current turbulence and reassure the nation by reaffirming the symbolic clarity that fosters public confidence and ensuring that personal impulses do not lead to structural changes. Without widespread consensus and constitutional clarity, the objective is both pragmatic and ethical to maintain the monarchy's perception as an institution that transcends personal interests and represents continuity, service, and national unity in the public's view. The outcome of recent events as either a transient occurrence or the start of a prolonged realignment within the home largely hinges on how senior members decide to see their own responsibilities in relation to the institution they collectively represent. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts. And goodbye for now. Music, music.